What's up, y'all? It's your girl Jay Lee. Today you're tuned into an episode of Faith Music Fitness, and I actually want to make this video about my testimony story to kind of explain to some of you guys how I got to be where I am today, and really what the Lord has done in my life over the years, especially the last 3 years. So get ready for a story time. Go ahead and grab some popcorn, some chips, some whatever you need, some tea or coffee, and get tuned in for this story. So I'll just jump right into it. So it all really started about 5 years ago. Actually, I'll take it back even before then. So I was originally born in California, and I moved to Washington State when I was 13, I think. And so prior to moving to Washington State, our family used to go to church all the time. It was mandatory. And, you know, we're just heavily involved in church and praying. And, you know, I remember having at-home Bible studies and different things like that. My dad always made sure that us reading the Word and knowing the Word was always something that we did. But for me, the 10 and 11-year-old Jasmine wanted absolutely nothing to do with reading the Bible and having anything to do with God whatsoever. And I even remember one time in particular asking my mom, like, why are we even going to church? Because I'm like, I don't believe in this stuff, so do I have to go? And I remember she didn't quite even know what to say, but she just kind of looked at me in shock, like, wow, did you really just say that? So just to give, you know, some understanding of where I was. But fast forward, we moved to Washington State. I think I was 13, maybe on the brink of 14 years old. And that's when the beginning, like I think the seeds were planted. And we started going to this church, much like, you know, we normally did. And so it was just kind of routine. Like I just, you know, obviously put on my church clothes, went because I had to. And that really changed the game for me. And this church that I went to, that our family went to, it was the first time I had ever felt actually involved in ministry. And I remember there was a youth retreat that same weekend that we moved there. I was invited to it, and me and my sisters as well, we all three went to the youth retreat. And as we were there, I remember the pastors, both the pastor and his wife, they both ended up asking me, what do you do? And maybe they just felt led of the Lord to like inquire, but I was very shy. And so I was like, well, I play basketball. And at the time we were in a gymnasium, and, you know, so they were like, okay, well, we can tell, we see that. But they were like, but there's something else. What else do you do? And my sisters were right there, and one of them ended up saying, oh, well, she raps. And I kind of looked at them like, why'd you say that? For one, because I was shy, but for two, because we're in church, and I had been making music and writing rap songs ever since I was 9. So, which at that time wasn't an extremely long amount of time. But I was not saved. I did not go to church. Well, I went to church, but I was not involved emotionally in church. So needless to say, I was not making Christian music. And so when they said that, I was like, oh goodness, most of the time when people find out that I can rap, the next thing that happens is they're like, well, okay, well then rap for us. And I'm like, I cannot off top make up a freestyle about Jesus, and I literally know nothing about the Bible. So, you know, they asked, you know, how long I had been rapping, and making a long story short, they ended up saying to me, and I had never heard this before, and this is where I say I think this was the season that God used that church, that ministry in particular, to plant seeds in my life, because they said to me, no, your music is a gift. You don't have to hide it. It's not that it's inappropriate in church. What it is that, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people have been religious, and that religiosity has closed them off to accepting that God has gifted all of us with different things. And so they said that, you know, to use it for his glory, to not use it for my glory, to not use it for my own personal gain, but to use it for an opportunity to give God glory and to share the word of God with other people. And so that was the first time that I had ever heard that. But then to add on to that, they ended up asking me without ever hearing me rap. This is how I know this was God, because without even hearing me rap, they literally asked me, I think the following weekend, hey, would you make a rap song and perform it for the church next Sunday? And I'm thinking, okay, the heat is on now. Let me go. And that was the first time I actually did what I normally do now for my process for writing music. I got the Bible and kind of just flipped through it, was trying to kind of get a gauge. Okay, well, which literally was the worst way to ever try and read the Bible. I don't recommend it. But not reading the Bible. I don't recommend that way of reading the Bible. But needless to say, I came up with this rap song, and I think it was pretty terrible. To this day, my dad tells me that he thinks it's great and that it would reach many people. Maybe he likes it, or maybe he's just trying to encourage his daughter that she didn't write a terrible song. But the chorus went, oh, yeah, that's my God. And he ain't no fraud. Hey, that's my G-O-D. And what he do? And he had his son die for me. So that was the hook. And I personally, even now, I kind of cringe a little bit because I feel like it was really corny. But, I think that it's just a testament to how far God has brought me. So that was really the beginning of planting the seed. And then I would say that, some years went past where I was mindful of my relationship with God, but I wasn't necessarily pursuing it in the way that I am now. So fast forward, I graduated high school, and I think I was about 19. And that's when things really started to get heavy, I guess you could say. So I started to experience a lot of temptation. And I think maybe being older and just feeling like, I should be out partying, getting tattoos. And I think that was a time of much confusion. And I also want to add that for me personally, during that time, I thought that college was the best route for me. And I'm grateful now when I look back that God didn't allow me to, or I'm not going to say God didn't allow me, but I think that it wasn't in the plan for me to go to college then, because I strongly believe that had I been in that environment of, people who were partying and, making a lot of almost reckless decisions with their lives, I think I would have embodied that. But I'm grateful that God really protected me from that kind of lifestyle. And now I believe that if I were to go back to school, because I'm so much more set in my convictions, I think it would be a lot harder to get me to sway back to that direction. But during that time, I experienced a whole lot of temptation from just, I wanted to get a bunch of tattoos. I wanted to start drinking. I wanted to start sneaking out, just you name it. And it wasn't so much that I did the act, but it was the fact that those thoughts were even in my mind. And I remember just feeling extremely tempted, like I said, from every corner, and almost wondering, why is the temptation so strong in this regard? And, when I look back at that time, I almost felt kind of guilty, because I'm like, I look Christian on the outside, but I have such ungodly desires on the inside. And I feel like I'm lying to other people when they come to me and they ask me for advice on prayer or reading the Bible. And I don't know anything about the Bible, barely pray. And on top of that, I'm like, my desires are probably no different than yours. So I really am not in a position to speak to your situation because I don't have mine together. So that was really what I was going through. And to make matters worse, I think the worst of it all was the fact that I really felt, for the first time in my life, I really genuinely questioned, since I had believed in God. I think when I was 14, what that did for me is it made me start to feel like, okay, maybe God is real. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. It wasn't, I didn't make him my Lord, but I think that I at very least said, you know what, maybe God is real. But then I think during that time of testing, for the first time, I really said to myself, maybe I just kind of worked myself up or talked myself up, because if I'm really saved, or if I really believe in God, then why do I want all of these things that are ungodly? You know, I knew enough to know that the things I was wanting to do were ungodly. So I ended up writing this song, and I actually wrote a poem all in this time frame. And I made a musical project. I think I had like maybe, I don't know, 8 to 10 songs on it. And it was called Flesh vs. the Spirit, because I knew that what was going on in that time, I wanted worldly things, but I also had a godly conscience in the sense that I had heard about the fruits of the Spirit, and I had, you know, some knowledge of the Bible, and I didn't want to completely throw my relationship with God away. And so in this song, Certain, I really just poured out my heart to God, and I told him, you know, pretty much, I don't know if you're real. It's weird writing a song to God saying that you don't know if he's real. Sounds backwards, didn't make sense at the time, but I think it was the closest way that I could admit, you know, I don't know if I believe in you. So, and then I ended up writing a poem, like I said, that expressed my feelings as well. And something that God has revealed to me over the years is that my music has transformed into, you know, from just doing raps and maybe writing some singing parts to really a lot of the songs that I've written are actual prayers. It's like a singing prayer. And so really what I was doing was praying, God, I need you to show yourself to me. I need you to restore my relationship with you. And if the Holy Spirit, one of the lines in the song was, if the Holy Spirit within me is working, then Lord, please make me certain. And something along those lines. I don't remember exactly, and I remember just really wanting to be certain that God was real. Like, show me that you're actually real, because right now I really don't know. So fast forward again about 2 more years, because I was 19 and then boom, 21. And that's where things started to change. So it took a while. It wasn't an instant, okay, as soon as I prayed, I just the next week started feeling better. So I got my license at 20, and I didn't really start driving my car until I was 21. Pretty late, I know. That's a whole nother story. But my 21st birthday, my sisters threw me a birthday party, and I was to drive over to her house and spend the night that night. So that way, the intention was to create a safe place for me to get drunk. And I say that with quotes because obviously getting drunk is never safe. It doesn't matter who you're with or around. And obviously I trust my sisters and my family. But you know, there's a lot of things that it's not safe spiritually. I'll say that. As well as sometimes physically. So anyways, you know, I'm drinking what feels like everything. I think I tried, if I'm not mistaken, tequila, vodka. We had like a little wine cooler. And then there was one drink in particular that I actually really liked, and it was called the Midori Sour. And I kept drinking it. And for some reason that night, I literally could not seem to get drunk. And what was funny was the fact that I was a lightweight. Obviously, I didn't drink before then. And so I couldn't understand, like, why can't I get drunk? And maybe about an hour and a half into the party, my sisters get into an argument. And the argument then, well, I don't think their argument turned physical, but one of my sisters said that she was going to leave. And I was for sure. It was like, I know she's a little bit past the point of driving home. So I like run to the doorway to stop her, and it turns into a tug of war. And before you know it, I'm getting her nails clawed in me, and it just turns into like a physical brawl in the hallway. And the whole point was really to keep her from going to her car, driving away, and then obviously, you know, being in danger. But past that, somehow, maybe about 30 to 40 minutes after all of this, everybody calms down. We come back inside the house and start cleaning up. Now at this point, putting the balloons away, or, you know, bringing the balloons down and cleaning and everything. And then they say, okay, well, you guys want to go back to partying? After that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm done. And that weekend, both of my parents were actually gonna be going on a mini vacation. So I was like, okay, house to myself. It's my birthday weekend, so I'll go back home. Mind you, I'm a new driver and I've had all of this alcohol in my system. To make matters worse, my sisters at first were like, we think you should stay. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go. No one else said anything after that. They're like, all right, if you wanna go home, it is what it is. To add on to that, I was leaving probably about 1 to 2 in the morning. And something I knew at that time, I was an opener at McDonald's. So I worked at like 3 in the morning. So I already knew that I would have to leave, during the 2 o'clock hour. I already knew that there were cops in that area all the time. So this is a horrible combination. I'm a new driver. I have been drinking. It's 2 in the morning, so there's no other cars. And if they just needed, a traffic stop, I probably was the chosen child. And then to make matters worse, they put the party balloons in the back seat. And without any argument, I didn't even fight it. Open bottles of alcohol in the front seat in the passenger side. Because I was the one I asked. I was like, what is that green drink that I really liked, which was the Midori Sour? And they were like, do you want it? I was like, yeah, I'll take that with me. And I was like, you guys can just put it in the front seat. There was no wisdom used whatsoever. And that just goes to show that really wisdom goes out the door when alcohol and other substances are involved. Thank God. And you know what the crazy part is? I literally prayed. This just goes to show you how off I was. Like, I believed in God, but I also was not really walking with God. And so I even prayed and I was like, God, just bless me to get home safe. Like, ignoring every red flag that there was, but then still hoping that God would bless the situation. Some of you, just a side note, some of you might be doing that in your decisions, praying that God will bless decisions that you know are ungodly. Some of you might be doing that in relationships. Whatever have you, I hope you take this as a word of wisdom. Learn from my mistake. So, long story short, I get home safely, thank God, and walk in the house, turn on some TV, it's super late at night, drink some more, and then I went to sleep. And then once I woke up, made some pancakes, not realizing like the severity and the grace that God had over me just to bless me to get through that. And I remember, I think it was like 9 in the morning, and my mom and dad walked through the front door, and I was scared out of my mind. I'm like, I already know, what I just did was terrible. And my mom walks into the house, and the first thing she asks is, what time did you come home? She didn't say hi. She didn't, how was the party? She said, what time did you come home? And I already knew she was upset. And here I am trying to lie. And I'm like, I came home this morning. Not telling the time. I'm trying to be like strategic. Oh, I came home this morning. She's like, what time this morning? And I was like, she's like, don't lie. And I'm like, okay. It was like 1 or 2. And then she just stopped talking to me. She just had this look, and I knew. I was like, I'm in trouble. And so, but the crazy part is, even with that happening, there was this weird sense of direction because I think that day was Friday, if I'm not mistaken. My party was on Friday night. The day my parents came home was Saturday, and then the next day was Sunday. And for some reason, I just felt this deep conviction down in my spirit that no matter what had happened the day before, I needed to go to church on Sunday. It was like, I cannot do I absolutely have to go. So I followed that. And the very next morning, in spite of what had happened, the fact that I was partying the night before and drinking and doing some reckless stuff, none of that got to me. It was like, I gotta go. So I woke up super early in the morning and I went to this church that I had attended once or twice. And then for some reason, I just kind of dropped off. And so I drove all the way down there, and I was like 2 hours early because I was just wanting to make sure I got there on time, which was probably way too overkill, but you know, it's whatever. Anyways, I get all the way there and I'm just praying and I'm like, all right, God, you know, I'm really, really nervous. I remember being nervous. And so it was almost time for the service to start. And before you know it, I go in there and I just felt the need to go again. And again and again. And before you know it, I think I had gone maybe about a month before my pastor, at the very end of service, he would, you know, make an altar call. And then he would also open the doors of the church and ask if anyone would like to join the church. And I remember yet again feeling this deep conviction, like, maybe I should. But I don't know what I'm doing. I've never joined a church before. This is the first time I've ever willingly gone to church in my life. So I don't really know what's happening right now. So I remember raising my hand, and I'm short. So I had like two people that were really tall in front of me. So I don't think my pastor saw, you know, my hand. But as I was about to sit down, I thought, okay, well, you know, maybe it's just not, this isn't the weekend. Maybe I'm just going to trust God and ride this out a little bit longer. And one of the ladies that was sitting in front of me, she turned around and she said, oh, you want to join the church? Because, you know, she saw my hand like going back down. And I was like, I would like to. And so she told the pastor. I went up to the front of the church. And then everyone started greeting me and I became a member of the church. And that was really the beginning of me walking out my faith. You know, at that time, I didn't have like a partner to go do it with, or a best friend, or like you know, making a pact with someone that, yeah, this year we're going to go to church and we're going to go together. It was just the Lord I just felt in my spirit. I don't even know how else to describe it other than that. But it was just this strong sense of, I need to be here. I need to go. And I obeyed that. I listened. So that happened, became a member. And then shortly thereafter, a lot of things changed. I started ministering. After some time. I didn't like start being in the church for a month and then start ministering, you know, 3 months later. It took a while, probably about a year in to me being in the church. And about a year in, I ended up, there was an invitation to be baptized. And I was kind of nervous at the idea, but one of my good friends from the church ended up asking me, she was like, do you want to get baptized? Because I really want to get baptized. And I was like, I mean, yeah. And I didn't realize the biblical necessity of, you know, being baptized until later. It wasn't actually until after I got baptized that I realized that. But I was so excited because April 30th, 2017 was my baptism day. And I cannot describe it like anything else aside from, I'm not married, but how some people describe how you feel on your wedding day. I remembered this like immense peace. I've never, like any other time, I've never felt peace the way I felt that day. I was nervous in a weird way because I don't like being in front of people and attention. And also I was really, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous about getting the Holy Spirit because I was like, if I start, you know, saying some stuff and not saying things, obviously speaking in tongues, I was a little bit concerned about that. But I just remember being extremely peaceful. And like, I know without a doubt, no one told me to do this. No one like pushed me to, it was my own willful decision to give my life over to Christ and to do it publicly. And it was like that day, I just said to myself, I don't care who knows. Matter of fact, I want everyone to know I am in love with Jesus Christ. Like, I love him and I just want to live my life for him. And I remember going out to the front of the church and my pastor was there and, you know, my family was there. And I remember just feeling like I said, so much peace. And when when they brought me back up, I remember looking out and my family was crying. My sister was crying. My mom was crying. I didn't cry. I didn't really feel like it was a crying moment. I was just happy, filled with joy. But yeah, that just changed my life. And obviously, there's, you still struggle with flesh. It's not like flesh just goes away because you got baptized. But I think that was a very declarative moment for me, saying that my life is going to be different from here on out. So that happened, and ever since then, I really made a conscious decision to start reading the Bible, which is another story I will share with you guys on a different video, because I don't want this one to be extremely long, even though it already kind of is. But I, started reading the Bible every day. I started praying more. I don't know, just when you feel like God is trying to get your attention, maybe he speaks through a certain person, maybe he, has put an unction on your heart like he did mine. If he's trying to get your attention, the Bible, I don't know where this verse is, but it says, the day you hear my voice, harden not your heart. And so if you feel that the Lord is speaking to you, whatever season it is, no matter if people around you and your family or your friends or the society is with you, because more times than not, society will not be, for you when it comes to walking with Christ. But if you feel the call of the Lord, answer that. And even if you have been saved and maybe you've backslidden, or maybe you've kind of gotten off track, if you feel the Lord, pulling and tugging at you to say, come near me again and get back in my presence, listen to that, obey that, and I guarantee you, you're going to be blessed spiritually because of it. So yeah, that was really my testimony. I'm trying to think if I left anything else out. Obviously, it's not my entire life story, but that was really how I got saved. And from this point, ever since, I haven't been able to let go. And I have moments where I've obviously been discouraged and been tired, but I think that the word also says, they that wait upon the Lord, he will renew their strength. And, he's been my strength and everything that I've needed in the times that I've needed. So that is my testimony story. More stories along the way. But until the next time, peace.